All right. Looks like everybody has made their way in and we are ready to go. So again, thank you so much for joining. My name is Alex Camilio. I'm one of the instructors here at the Real Estate Technology Institute. I'm also the CEO of a company called Agent Inner Circle. I have a long history in the real estate industry of creating companies, managing some companies, and do a lot of speaking as well. So I'm on the road. I speak for everybody from NAR on down to state events and so on and so on. So we're going to dive in. All right, switch over to the actual presentation here. We'll share the screen with you, and we are sales funnel today. And a lot of what I do, as I mentioned before, in building various companies is set up the marketing funnels for those companies in terms of how do we actually sell the product and get it out there. Because in reality, a product, in any product, whether you're trying to get leads for real estate or whether it be you're trying to get leads for an online product, there are certain techniques and tactics that are going to work. So what we're doing here today is we're actually going to cover some ways where you can set up an automated system to be able to bring in various leads and go through the whole process of actually bringing them in and then in an automated way, nurturing them up until the point where they'll actually convert into either a prospect or a sale. So what we're going to do is, first of all, what is a lead funnel? Some of you might know this and might be very comfortable and have an understanding as to what this is, but I want to break it down into its actual components for everybody, because understanding the components will give you a much better understanding of what you're trying to achieve when you actually approach each of them. That's first of all. And then second of all, when you actually break it down into each of its components, you understand how sort of basic and straightforward it can be, to the point that anyone can do it if you put in some time and effort. So first of all, a lead funnel is a method used to set up an automated lead capture system. And I really focus on automated there, because a lot of the work you're going to do for this is upfront work. It's work that you might do, right at the beginning. But once you set that trigger, you might do a little tweaking and testing and so on here and there. But once you hit that trigger, the whole goal is that it really is automated and sort of functions on its own and allows you to focus on other parts of your business. So let's break it down into what is actually going to happen. First of all, you're looking for what's called traffic. And traffic is broken down into a bunch of different categories, whether it be search engines, Facebook, whether it's ads, posts on your business page, posts on your personal page. Peter Piper picked a peck with, and so on. Email blasts, email campaigns, all of those sorts of things are set up to drive what's called traffic. And that's people looking at your messaging. From there, you want to drive that traffic toward what we call bait. And the notion of bait is that it's something of value that you're going to give to people. And then for that, they're going to give their contact information to you. They're going to say, "Ooh, I like that. Let me give you my email address and my phone number, or name, or whatever information that you need really to follow up with them from there." Once you've captured them through bait, you want to walk through what's called building an attractive character. And you do this through what we're going to go through today is called a soap opera sequence. And you send them an automated set of emails that will actually build the character of who you are, to the extent that they feel comfortable with you, they want to work with you, and they might reach out to you. Building that attractive character, we're going to cover some basic tactics for turning that into a prospect, and then turning that prospect into a sale, and then the whole wash, rinse, repeat. Ideally, this starts working on its own through these automations that you've set up. Now, the next thing is we're going to talk about time to go fishing. And as I mentioned, there's bait. And I know I mentioned that traffic comes before bait, and it does in terms of how the lead comes into your system. But in reality, we're going to go through this in terms of what you need to focus on first to actually make this happen. So it's time to go fishing. What do we need? Well, we need bait. Here are some ideas in terms of bait. Now, when we say bait, we mean we're dangling sort of a free item that's out there to people. But if we get tricky with this, we can actually use the bait that we're creating to pre-qualify, and I don't mean financially, but I mean demographically, pre-qualify the people that might be coming in as leads. Okay, so here are some basic ideas that you can use, and try to get creative with these, right? If you have any ideas that you want to throw into the chat, feel free. I'll be monitoring that as we go along. If you have questions, same sort of thing. We're also going to address questions at the end, so I might save some of them for the end, but I want some input from everybody here, okay? So some of the free bait that we're going to be creating, first of all, is something like an educational flyer, or a free resource of some sort that you might be giving away to a client, or a how-to video to explain to them how they might be doing something, or a book, a free, plus shipping book, we call it, where they have to pay for the shipping, but you're actually going to give this book away to them, or maybe even a white paper, right? Some sort of document that explains in detail how to, work with something or how to do something that they might be interested in. Now let's dive a little deeper into some concepts that you can use to both bring in folks as well as pre-qualify those folks. So first of all, let's create an educational flyer that's something like 5 tips to get the most money for your home. I mean, people that are interested in selling their home, they might be interested in this information. If you put some sort of advertising in front of them that says, hey, get this free report, all you have to do is give me your email address, they might be doing that. Something else, the 8 things everyone must know before buying a home, right? What you'll notice here, though, is I'm already starting to pre-qualify the people through the types of articles that I'm putting out. You'll notice the first one is targeted towards people that have homes. The second one is targeted towards people that are buying homes, right? So all of a sudden, we can start going, oh, I know a little bit more about these people, and I can start targeting my next marketing message and my next sort of follow-up campaign towards those pieces and ways people are coming in. Now, honestly, you're going to know your demographic better than I ever will. So the titles and the things that you're coming up with to kind of draw people in, you want to focus on, the various areas and the things that your clients might be interested in. Don't get too specific with it, but there are lots of different ways to sort of make this work and set up an educational flyer. Now, the next one is a free book and a free plus shipping book. And I know it might seem kind of weird to be like, well, I'm going to give, but I didn't write a book. I'm going to give away a book. How does that all fit in? First of all, we know people love books. Okay. There's all sorts of stuff online about, book clubs and recommendations and reading and all of that sort of stuff. And people especially like books that are going to help them and that are topical, that might fit in with, what they might be going on with in their life right now. So you might be saying to yourself, well, that's weird. I just buy a book and I give it away. Absolutely. If you can find books that, again, might fit your demographic, be very focused around maybe home renovations, or very focused about a certain style of living or type of living, right? Those sorts of things that you're giving away. You're pre-qualifying folks, but let's keep in mind, how much money does each deal make you in terms of the amount of marketing dollars that you have to put in to something like this? And we'll talk about it as we go here, but spending the money to buy a bulk set of books that people are actually going to give up their contact information for, and might be things where folks not only give up that contact information, but are telling you something about their lives by actually, interacting and giving you that information. Those are the absolute keys to go with. So a book, you might want to understand your lead costs first if you don't already. But certainly, again, is another way that you can make sure to get sort of leads and capture leads from people coming in. Another one is an additional resource. A lot of folks will give away sort of tools, right? Different resources that people can use. Maybe it's an online resource, a site that's a member-only kind of site that you give someone access to, pieces of information that they can only get through that site. Those are another sort of tool of a piece of what we call bait. That's an additional resource. All we're doing here is we're basically saying, I want to give you a lot of value. Hey, would you give me your information, your contact information to do so? That's really what bait boils down to. I hope I've given you some good ideas. in terms of drawing people in and some examples of things you can use. But again, it really is about getting creative, understanding your local market, and going after people with those sorts of pieces of bait. Now, next, now that we have an understanding of the bait and what we're actually going to be driving people to, we go from there and we say, okay, now how do we drive traffic to that bait? Where do we draw people in? And as I mentioned, there's a whole slew of different places where you can bring in traffic, okay? It really sort of runs the gamut in terms of what are your capabilities for bringing in traffic to these pieces of bait. Sometimes it's running Google AdWords or Google advertising in general, and showing up in the correct searches where you're going to give away something right in the search results there. A lot of times it's Facebook ads or Instagram ads. We've had a lot of success with Facebook ads in the past, so that's actually one I'm going to cover in a lot of depth today. Any one of these sort of concepts of driving traffic, they could be covered in mass depth, right? People have full day classes on social media and full day classes. I teach a full day class on Google and all the Google environment and Google AdWords. So we can't go into a huge amount of depth, but the one that I tend to use, and I think because it allows you to do so much demographic targeting, is Facebook ads. They're really incredible in terms of how you're able to target folks by certain demographics to then get them to interact with the bait and then learn even more about them. But as I said, you can be successful with any one of these. So we're going to cover Facebook ads, but you can post to your personal page or your business page, internet searches, email campaigns, print advertising. I even just had us send a print advertisement reactivation letter for our company recently. It's a 3-part physical, first-class mail letter series. Those can work as well. So first is bait. Then we're going to drive traffic to bait. And for today, we're going to cover how you can do that and some secrets that we use with Facebook ads. So Facebook ad secret number 1 is that you need to target your demographics based on your competition. I know this might sound kind of crazy, right? But you can actually figure out who your competitors have and use their audiences and audience sizes to match up based on what the work they've done. It's kind of amazing when you really think about it. So first of all, we're going to target your demographics based on your competition based on real estate, the real estate company, things like likely to move, and then specific interests that might match your neighborhood. Now, the real estate company might be one that kind of sticks out to you, and you're going, what do you mean real estate company? Well, what Facebook allows me to do with a Facebook ad is create a demographic that looks something like this, where I can actually go and say, hey, I want to look at a full franchise brand and the people that are interested in that franchise brand. Now, a lot of those might be other realtors, and there are ways to limit those out. If you go a little further, you can limit out by job title and things like that, remove them from your fields. But you can actually say, I want to see all the people and the demographics of the people that are interested in this, and then target similar people that way. You can actually go after those audiences specifically. Now, same thing, you're going to stack multiple of either these franchises or these businesses. I mean, you can look at, the other 2 brokerages that are down the street from you. You can look at them and go, you know what? I want to target these sets of traffic specifically, stack them on top of each other, and then have Facebook do what's called a comparison audience. And what a comparison audience does is, actually, before I get to that, we'll go into interests a little bit. Same sort of thing as companies. You can target people's interests and either add specific interests or remove specific interests from the feed, right? So include people who match. Now, when I mention comparison audiences, what you can do is you can take all of that data, the interests, the things that you stack on top of each other, and run the audience that is a certain match to that set, okay? And say, well, not only show me the people that are in that set, but show me the people that are similar to that set or like that set, and then run ads and target ads towards those folks. Now, based on where you're targeting those ads, you then need to narrow your advertising copy. Okay. So we talked about the bait, right? And that's the first place you need to start, because you need to know what you're going to be advertising. So your ad copy can sound something like, are you, like we talked about, are you interested in the 5 most important renovations to, sell your home, or the 8 things you need to know before buying a home or buying your first home, or things of that nature. You can get even more specific with your ad copy. So, the 8 things you need to know before buying your home in city name, or, what millennials need to know, or what, 35-year-olds. You can even target down to age groups. It can be, what a 35-year-olds need to know to buy their first home, or what a 28-year-olds need to know, or 24, or whatever age group you want to target. You can do the same things and target your actual advertising copy. Okay. So we're going to drive traffic. We're going to target our advertising copy to those groups, and we're going to drive all that traffic towards our bait. And the bait's going to collect all of those emails and send those emails to us, and ideally automate them into some email platform. Okay. I personally use MailChimp. I think MailChimp is honestly by far the best one out there. There are lots of ones that sort of have a lot of overlapping features for, blast and bulk email programs these days. But we've had an incredible amount of success with MailChimp in terms of what we do. Now, from here, we got these emails. What do we do with them? First of all, you obviously want to email them, but how do you want to email them? What do you actually want to do once you have collected those emails in? And this comes out of .com Secrets and a book called .com Secrets by a guy named Russell Brunson. I would definitely check them out. They're kind of masters of this whole funnel sequence. But in essence, what you end up doing is once you get those emails in, you want to start with what we call a soap opera sequence. You want to start by telling them a story and building what's called your attractive character. Now, I know we all have lovely, attractive characters, but really what you want to do here is sort of show them, tell them who you are, explain, your background and a little bit about you. And it's very, in sales letters, they used to call it a Seinfeld sequence because it's about nothing. It's kind of a joke about a sequence that's, TV show about nothing. It's very similar in that way. You're not trying to sell them. You're not trying to, really go overboard that way. What you're trying to do essentially is say, hey, I'm a trustworthy person. I'm somebody you want to work with. Let's connect on a personal level. Let's connect on a personal basis. Now, how you do that is set up through a basic structure. You first set the stage. You then go into what's called high drama and a backstory. You then break into either what's called the epiphany or the one thing. Then you tell them about some hidden benefits of what's ever going on. And then you provide some sort of urgency for them to sort of contact you in the near future. Now, the first 4 work incredibly well in real estate. The 5th, it's hit or miss. Depending on markets where you are, what you're doing, who you're targeting, you might want to be a little bit more urgent with some folks, or less urgent with others. But the whole key here is that you build your character. Now, you set the stage by sort of a quick overview of who you are. You tell a quick story. Hi, I'm so-and-so. I built this, I'm glad that you got this piece of information. I built this piece of information out for you because of X, Y, and Z. Over the next, 5 days or 8 days or however many days, I'm going to be sending you some extra information. Oh, by the way, I'm a realtor in this area with a family and enjoy these sorts of things. You really want to sort of create a story for them to relate to. Then you want to create some sort of high drama or backstory with an interesting thing, a captivating thing that they might relate to. You want to move on from that to the epiphany. Ideally, throughout your setting the stage and your backstory, the epiphany is sort of a I figured it out moment, right? I finally bought a home. Maybe you talk about your experience buying your first home. And maybe it was a difficult experience and you go through an email sequence telling them about, how difficult it was, but how you persevered and how great it was to work with a realtor. And, if you knew that sort of a thing. And then you hit the epiphany, which is, oh my God, working with, a professional realtor who does X, Y, and Z sorts of things was, the be all end all for me. And then you start closing, you start turning them into a prospect, where it's, if you have questions, call me. If you, are interested in looking at homes, call me. And you start actually converting these people into prospects, into people that are really communicating with you about working together in some way, shape, or form. Okay. So it might seem very simple here. We're going to tell a story, we're going to build your character, and we're going to close the sale. Now, this sequence can be done. I've seen it go anywhere from a 5-day sequence to a 45-day sequence. We kind of sit in the middle. We use anywhere from 21 to 30-day sequences. And I know that might seem like a lot. You're getting a daily email to these people. It might be overwhelming. It's not. Trust me. Most of the time, people will sort of see some of them or see about 30, 40, 50%, but they would see that percentage whether you sent 1 or whether you sent 30. They absolutely would. So it's really, really critical to continue following up with these people for anywhere, like I said, from the 5 to the 45-day sequence, building that character, and getting to that point where they're going to turn into a prospect. Now, for real estate, I would actually suggest being a little bit further along in that. It's one thing when you're trying to sell a, $100, $200, $500,000 product. It's another thing when someone's trusting a decision for hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not more, in your hands. So building that attractive character, building that comfort level with these folks is absolutely critical and something you should be doing over time. Now, I'm going to give you some automated email tricks that we use internally and have sort of come up with over the years of doing this, or read about, or seen things here and there that are, I would say, some of those tricks you don't learn the first time doing it, unless you spend some really, really significant time working on, how to do this, you might not pick up. So the first one is, set up your automation to resend the same basic version of email 1 multiple times until they open it, and then trigger the rest of the automation. I know that might seem kind of ridiculous, right? But it's funny how well it works. So what you do is you come up with whatever the first email in the sequence is, and you create 5, 6, 7, 8 different versions of that same email. You reword it, you rework it a little bit, but basically it's the same email. It's a, hello, I'm so-and-so email consistently. You send it to them the first time. If they open it the first time, you start your second sequence. You start email 2 through 10, 20, 30, however many you're doing. If they don't open it, you send the second one, third one, fourth one, fifth one. I usually go anywhere from 3 to 5 on that sort of resent one at the beginning. If they don't read it after that, I give up. It's kind of time to move on. But what you do is you start that one, you sort of resend that opening email a number of times, and then as soon as they open it, start the second sequence. It really boosts the engagement of the continued sequence as time goes on, and drops the fall off number. The second thing is, we've talked about creating a long automated sequence that sort of extends the existing high drama and epiphany and so on concept. Another thing that you can do is actually cycle the concept. So say you've come up with a really solid 10-day sequence or 15-day sequence. You can actually recycle the same concepts. It can't be the same email, it can't be the same messaging, but the same concept. You can start story 2. After 15 days, when story 1 is done, but people are still reading your stuff, you can start story 2 and work through the same thing over and over and over again until you get to the second epiphany, and the third epiphany, and the fourth epiphany. And all of a sudden, every time that you do that, you build your character and you make it more likely that someone's going to interact with you. Okay? After that first series, whatever you're comfortable with, 20, 30, whatever days sequence that you put out, What you're going to do is you're going to go to a follow-up sequence that's weekly after that. Some sort of a checking in, okay? Because after that sequence is done, you don't necessarily need to be in their inbox every day. You're likely to get turned where they say, look, I don't need an email from someone I'm not going to contact for a year, but you need to check in, whether it be weekly, every 2 weeks. I wouldn't go any more than that, but a consistent check-in after those original emails. Okay, so that's our next sort of those next 3 tricks of how we do this. Now we have some more automated email tricks. Here are some things that you can work into these email sequences that make it such that they're more likely to get opened, people are more likely to follow along with them, and you're more likely to actually get a response and people interacting with you based on those. The first is promise other bait items in the email itself. So in that first welcome email, you want to say things like, hey, I'm going to be giving away, 2 movie tickets somewhere along this email for someone that answers a question, or I'm going to be giving away another report, or I'm going to be giving away a how-to video, or whatever it might be. Again, you go back to your bait. And at the beginning of the email sequence, you say, over the next 10 days, you're going to be getting this set of emails from me. Somewhere amongst that, I'm going to be giving away this other big thing. Maybe it's some really big thing. But again, another thing that gets people checking back in on those emails, reading your messaging over and over and over again. Okay. The next thing that you really want to do is you want to give them a reason to follow along, but also to move to other things. Okay, so you want to say, all right, I'm going to drive them towards Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and more, LinkedIn, Twitter, wherever you have a following and you have a consistent set of people that are following you there, you want to drive them to those as well. Okay, so say you're doing a contest where, like we saw before, let's combine these two now. You have a bait item that you're going to be giving away, but that thing is going to be given away in a contest. Something we've done in the past that worked amazingly well is, let's say you're giving away something wild, an iPad or, a tablet of some sort, or, a year's subscription to something along those lines to get people. What you can say are things like, go like our page on Facebook, or go share this post, or go do things like that for an extra chance to win. And all of a sudden, now you're leveraging that bait item into other social shares, follows, views on videos, all of those sorts of things, simply by having that bait item that you're both going to get people to follow along as well as share more of your content. Then you're going to give them a reason to look for the next email, but beyond just promising bait items. This really comes to a level of what's called direct response copywriting. Okay, so, and I don't mean copyright like, legal term. I mean actually writing copy. There's a study of what's called direct response marketing. And if you haven't really looked into it, I would when you're getting into a topic like this. And the reason being is the direct response marketing uses specific what's called neuro-linguistic programming triggers to get people to interact with content and to actually interact with the things that you've written. So for example, when you're telling your story, you know how soap operas sort of leave the story on a cliffhanger and you got to pick up next week for the next one? Why don't you do the same thing? It's the same concept. You want to leave people on cliffhangers. You want to highlight or bold specific text. Some things you might find, and I found wild when I really first started getting into this, were things like ellipses versus periods. Writing copy with a bunch of ellipses might look a little different, might not look right to some of us. But psychologically, an ellipse doesn't actually end a sentence, and people don't perceive it as a break point in writing. So they're more likely to continue reading. Now, you can't go overboard and use them all over the place, but it's very interesting to really understand the psychology of how people perceive the writing and the advertising messages that we're putting out. Now, let's take that perception into account here, okay? So that being said, use emojis in subject lines. I know this might sound wild, but it's sort of about being where everyone else isn't. We've seen that consistently using emojis in subject lines as well as social media posts have actually driven up engagement in certain ways. So not only that, we've actually seen some cases where they'll be more likely to show up in people's inboxes. That one, here nor there, it's kind of like SEO in terms of showing up in an inbox. But we've definitely seen higher open rates and interaction rates on very quality lists that we already have. So we've covered some of these sort of email and automated email tricks where we're learning how to convert, capture, and get people to interact with what we're doing. Now, once we've done that, and one thing that we need to understand and do throughout all of this is tracking. I say track everything, because to understand your cost per lead, cost per prospect, and cost per customer, you must track everything really, really effectively. Now, some of the items that we set up to do the tracking right off the bat is, first of all, we hook up Google Analytics. Google Analytics is an absolutely incredible and free tracking service that you can hook into pretty much any website or online campaign in terms of tracking data that way. So absolutely install that into your websites, get that running, and track things accordingly there. The next thing that you need to do is set up and if you're going to be doing any sort of Facebook advertising or even some posting through your business page, you want to set up the Facebook Pixel. The Facebook Pixel allows both Facebook as well as you to track leads and lead conversion from online right through onto your site. If you don't have that set up, I would absolutely do so. But if you are going to implement a lot of this stuff, it's something that's very, very necessary to really start understanding your costs per lead. The next one is your email campaign links. Now, technically, these are links that you use anywhere. Google Analytics has what they call campaigns, and usually they use these for Google AdWords so that they know where specific links come from. But you can use these for any links that you put out via email or in other pieces of media as well. So if you go to Google AdWords campaign link, just search that on Google, or UTM campaign. Again, search that on Google. There'll be tools that are there to help you set up those links and track them directly through into Google Analytics. The last one, and the one I would also set up, is something called Hotjar. Hotjar, and this is, I say, if you want to get fancy with it. It's a little bit expensive in terms of tracking a website. So, keep that in mind. I believe it's $79 or $80 a month, something like that, for the base, business package to track a site. But it allows you to do things that a lot of the other tracking platforms don't. One of the things that it allows you to do is actually get videos of each specific person's navigation through your site, where their mouse moved, where it hovered over, what pages they clicked through, whether they're on mobile or desktop. And actually, it'll give you a video at the end that shows their entire experience of moving through your site. It's kind of wild. The other thing it'll do is provide heat maps on the site as well. So you can see heat maps of where lots of people's mouses were hovering, or things where they clicked in, or click points or click away points, or things of that nature via heat maps to get a really, sort of more in-depth understanding of how the site is working and how the site is converting for that site that you're bringing in. Now, again, we could go through a full day course on tracking and Google Analytics and Facebook Pixel and Hotjar and all that sort of stuff. But at the end of the day, these are the basic core items that you need to set up in terms of running a sales funnel. Now, what I will mention is both of the items that I mentioned today that were items where I had to say, look, this is only, a 45-minute webinar, and, we can't really get into all the details of everything today. The lovely part about all of that is that content is on the site of the folks that put this this webinar on. So the Real Estate Technology Institute is a group comprised of myself, Craig Grant, Amy Smythe Harris, Juanita McDowell, and Warren Dow. It's a group of teachers and coaches and trainers from all over North America that teach all over the country and really educate realtors on a consistent, it's amazing how consistent basis. But that team has put together a site. And what that site is it's basically a repository of over 300 videos that are the how-to videos for anything you really need that are technology related within marketing. So at the beginning, we were talking about things like social media, where we said, okay, you need to drive traffic through Google AdWords. You need to drive traffic through your social media posts and pages. You need to drive traffic. All of those things, we have videos on all of that content. Just like at the end when I was talking about Google Analytics as an example, we have videos on Google Analytics and on setting those things up and setting up tracking. I would absolutely check it out. For the subscription price, it's a really, really pretty low price. It's $4.95 for the first month to try it out. It's $19.95 a month after that. There's a demo page where you can see about, if you go to the site reti.us, there's a site there where you can see a bunch of the demos and see the videos before you sign up so you get an idea of the quality of the content. That being said, my name is Alex Camilio. I really appreciate everyone's time today. I am going to open up to some questions here just in a second. So we'll go there in a minute here. But I would like to mention that I'm CEO of a group called the Agent Inner Circle. It's a group of more than 80,000 real estate professionals all over North America that contribute to one site, one blog. And the goal is really to help one another, to submit ideas, marketing ideas, all of those sorts of things, to become a community to help one another. And myself and the rest of our staff also contribute a lot of content there as well. So that's a free sign up. agentinnercircle.com. But again, I would really go check out reti.us and sign up there. So let's move over to questions. I'm sure there are going to be some questions from everything that we went through. I hope you found it certainly valuable. All right. Looks like someone's typing in here. Oh, interesting. Okay, it's a good question. So someone just asked, what are the normal costs per lead? And it's a great question. I wish I had a really fantastic answer, which here's what I would say. The cost of a lead really comes down to how specific you're getting within your demographics and you're targeting that way. And it also depends on what you're looking for them to do. So, for example, if you're looking for page likes as the end goal of a Facebook ad, that's going to be a different cost than if you're looking for a click. If you set up the Google Pixel, you can actually go right through and track through to lead capture and lead conversion that way. So again, you can, based on the demographic and based on what you're actually trying to advertise, folks will, the price will vary. Our company IT guy is paranoid about our web address getting shut down from too many people marking the emails as spam. Is it better to just outsource? I want these to come from my company email. Okay, so there are a couple things that that go into managing email and bulk email that way. So there is some paranoia surrounding bulk email and sending people out to bulk email programs. I get that. The problem, though, is that all of the major companies out there, I mean, Amazon still runs bulk email programs. Google still runs bulk email programs. I mean, pretty much every major company I know out there runs some sort of bulk email program and marketing program that works. The trick really comes down to a few things, one of which is keeping a quality list. You don't want to be just dropping in bulk sets of emails and spamming out people that maybe didn't sign up, didn't want to get these emails from you, so on. The other thing is, in the emails, people are pretty savvy these days about unsubscribing versus spam. If you start your sequence right when they've signed up and given you that email, they know who you are and they know why you're emailing them. People mark spam when they don't know the company, they don't know why they're getting emailed, they don't know those sorts of things, okay? So it really, it comes down to, like I said, managing a good list. That's really key. There are services out there that'll help you with data validation. One is actually my favorite is datavalidation.com, funny enough. So those are some things that you can do. The other thing is what's called the double opt-in. So a lot of times when you sign up for a mailing list, you'll get an email immediately that says, hey, please confirm your email for us. A double opt-in, when someone does that, even if they mark it as spam or something like that later on, but they've double opted into that email list, they get marked differently. Your list in general gets marked differently. So yes, getting your whole company account banned is certainly an issue. Here's what I would say. If your company IT person is just steadfast, will not change anything, do you have any sort of, I'll call it business but personal email that you run? So for example, Linda, do you have a lindarealtor.com, a personal domain email that you run? If so, I would send it through that, because a lot of times you can make those forward and the reply emails go back into your business account, but where it's actually coming from is your own personal domain. I would move towards something like that if that IT person is just totally steadfast. In reality, though, your company should be managing a bulk marketing program, bulk email marketing program. Next question is from Ruth. Ruth says, for free books, how do you handle the shipping fee? PayPal? PayPal is certainly one of the ways to do that. There are a number of things out there that you can set up, whether it be through your website or other lead capture programs that will automatically do that. So one of them that we use is a system called ClickFunnels. That's actually Russell Brunson's company, the guy I mentioned before. ClickFunnels is a great sort of lead capture, and then also you can integrate Stripe payment system directly into that. If you have a WordPress site, again, you usually can integrate certain PayPal or Stripe integrations directly in there. Those are certainly ways to do it. Absolutely. All right. Let's see if there are any other questions here. Oh, we got one. So we got a question on reti.us. They were asking about the site and sort of what's involved with it. Actually, let me read this off here. What categories does RETI cover? Good question. Covers a lot of various marketing categories, and everything from digital signature to paperless office to the Google suite to SEO to marketing topics to email topics. It really kind of runs the gamut and spreads a bunch of different categories throughout technology. We had another question here. Someone says, we mentioned earlier that posting from a personal page, but shouldn't you not post business stuff? So technically, by Facebook's terms of service, you're not supposed to directly promote your business via your personal page. However, if you're celebrating a milestone at your business, oftentimes that's also a milestone in your life. You don't have to say, hey, sign up with me or sell a home with me or buy a home with me. You can say, hey, look at this milestone we achieved. So there's a lot of ways where you can work business style posts into your day-to-day items. All right. Well, unless we have any other questions here, I'm going to wait for just another minute or two here, see if we have any other questions come in. If not, we will close it on down. All right. Well, it looks like that about does it for us today. Thank you to everyone who joined. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much.